I would expect that everybody in this room knows about the Big Hospitality Conversation Initiative. But just in case there is anyone here that may not be up to date with the latest and most current status of this groundbreaking industry-led initiative, I'm going to welcome Patrick Dempsey, who is, as you all know, Managing Director of Whitbread Hotels and Restaurants and also Chair of the Big Hospitality Conversation, to bring you all up to speed. I'll leave you, Patrick. Thank you.
I noticed a couple of things today. Graham Coddington got paid, and therefore he got slides. And I said, if you pay me, would you give me some slides? And they said, no. So I've got one prompt. And it's relevant because when Graham was talking about Generation Y, I mean, it was really inspiring. And I've got 2 young kids who are Generation Y growing up. But at the same time, yesterday morning, I looked at the Times newspaper and I saw an article saying in Italy, 43.7% are youth unemployed, aged 14 to 24 years of age, or 16 to 24. 43% of the youths in Italy unemployed. In Spain, that's 50. And in our country, here in the UK, it's 20%. 1 in 5 people, 16 to 24, unemployed. So when Graham was talking, you could have said, actually, Generation Y could be a lost generation and not a digital generation unless we do something about it. And I got involved in the Big Hospitality Conversation about 2 years ago to try and work my way through all the different schemes that are there, both from government and industry, and how we could make a difference. And I suppose I had one experience that really highlighted to me that you and I could make a real difference, that we could actually change people's lives. And that was my story I told last year about a young boy called Sharia, who I sat next to in an audience at a Talent and Skills Council about 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago. And he was sitting beside me, and there was someone talking like me on the stage about talent and skills and apprenticeships and everything else. And I said to him, what are you doing here? And he said, well, I'm unemployed. I live in Tower Hamlets, and if anybody wants to employ me, I'm here to have a job. And I think I told the story, and I think most of you know it, but we actually employed him. And it's now 2.5 years on. He's still with us. He's done an apprenticeship program. He's become a team leader. And one of the things he did about 6 months after I employed him, he dropped me a note saying, hey, mister, I don't quite know who you are, but you haven't half made a difference in my life. You know, I live at home with my mum and my dad, my granddad, my brother and sister, and no one in our flat works or has ever worked. And he said, I now have a job and I'm going to be a role model. And 2.5 years later, he's now a team leader at Leicester Square in one of our Premier Inns. He's got married, he's got a daughter, and he's looking for his first deposit. So we were able to make a difference in his life. And I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to see 10s, 20s, 30s, 50s, hundreds of young kids that we've helped in my business to change their life and make a difference. And later on, you're going to hear from a few young people. Leon, who works with us, who also fell in really bad times, and he'll tell you his story. And he now is an ambassador for the Prince's Trust and works with us about helping youth employment. And you're going to hear from a girl called Annabelle, who's a rising star who did an apprenticeship program, who 2 years ago was doing nothing, and today she's now running a hotel on her own, a young Generation Y. So the Big Hospitality Conversation, what we want to talk to you about in the next hour, is about 3 key areas. How do we get more 14 to 17-year-olds to have a really good structured work placement in hospitality? How can we help people in our workforce get better skills, better education through apprenticeship programs, of which today we've launched level 2 to level 7, right through to MBA. And the third area is how do we attract these 16 to 24-year-old young people and give them a job and give them a chance. And that's what the Big Hospitality Conversation is all about. Now, we've been going at this for 2 years. And over the last 2 years, we've had some pretty good successes. We've held 19 Big Hospitality Conversations. We've had 2,500 industry leaders at those Big Hospitality Conversations across the UK. And we've had 37,000 pledges of opportunities for work experience, apprenticeships, and youth unemployment. And many companies have really contributed very well to that agenda. Today, where we are, I think what we've got and we've achieved to date is that we now have the big hospitality conversation at the centre of the plank of what we do at the BHA under Ufi's leadership. We've appointed a director to run the big hospitality conversation for our industry, James Latham, who you'll meet later on. And what we really want to do going forward now is we really want to move that to the next level. We've got a steering group in place that's chaired by me. We have Alistair Story from Baxter Story on it. We have Thomas from Accor. We have a lady called Fiona, who's the HR director from Compass. We have Marriott. We have Springboard. We've got Premier Inn. And I'm sure I'll forget a few, but we have a really strong steering group to help guide this and take it forward. What we're trying to do now is to get funding. And one of the things that I want from the Tourism Council is to get government to start to match fund what we're doing. We're spending as business about £600,000 or £700,000 a year. That's what we in this room contribute through our time, giving up venues, etc. And what we want to do now is to get the government to put up £600,000 or £700,000 to match fund us, so we can make this a really professional part of what we do. Over the next 12 months, we're going to hold 24 big hospitality conversations across the UK. 12 in business in different regions throughout the UK with our BHA partners and industry partners, and 12 in colleges and schools, so they can see that what opportunities there are in hospitality when they leave school. In a few minutes' time, John, Forrest, Anne Pierce and James are going to introduce you to some of these young people so you can hear the difference we've made in their lives. But the big hospitality conversation is part of a broader context. It's part of the Talent and Skills Council across industry, BITC, which is chaired and headed up by the Chief Executive of the National Grid, Steve Holliday. And we've asked Steve to come along today just to tell us a bit of a wider context about what's happening in different industries and perhaps give us his perspective on what we're doing and how it's working in our industry. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand you over to Steve Holliday, Chief Executive of National Grid and Chair of Talent and Skills. Thank you.
I need to run around here. I haven't got a nice radio mic, unfortunately. Thank you, Patrick. It's great to be here and just give you a few minutes about what's been going on across the industry, because this industry has been playing, as you just heard from Patrick, an enormous part in the last 2 years. But talent and skills is broader than just hospitality. In fact, the activity, the focus on talent and skills goes back many years. But the group of people that I have the privilege of working with have taken it to a different level and tried to narrow the focus down in many ways to just a couple of core areas. It's all about aspiration. Trying to get into our kids and the generation of the future, a real aspiration of what work's all about and how you can get into work. And a real sense of inspiration as well, which is where the work experience comes in. And trying to put some structure around. Because one of the problems we have in the UK in our observation is, in all sectors, there are businesses doing really good things. Really enthusiastically doing things, putting lots of human resource around it, and often putting quite a lot of funding behind it. The problem is, it's just so fragmented. It's so disconnected, actually, that it makes it very difficult for kids and schools and things to really get together and get a sense of what the future is all about. That's what we've been trying to do through BITC. So, of course, we've got Whitbread as part of this. We have Boots, we have Marks & Spencers, we have Asda's, we have Barclays Bank from the financial sector, we have National Grid, we have Costain from the construction sector, we've had the BBC as part of this as well, Capgemini and Accenture from the IT and consulting industry. So we tried to cover a huge raft of actually what industry and jobs in Britain are to try and coordinate a lot more. And that's been working. So as a result of that, we've focused really down on 3 huge activities. And the first of those has been the big conversations. And I take my hat off. I'm in awe of this industry, because you have been leading without any question in terms of the numbers. But we've had big conversations in all of the sectors I've just mentioned. We've had 5 last year in the energy sector across the UK. The IT sector and the consulting and the professional sector, talking to kids about jobs is almost unique when people think those clearly are at the end of a very long academic journey. And that's changed enormously in that sector in particular, just as an example, into one of our other focused areas, which is on apprenticeships. And all the things you read in the paper right now about, are we putting kids into the right pathways for work in the future? Are we really preparing them for the place of work with the right skills and behaviours as well as some of the right education? And pleasingly, apprenticeships are back on the agenda in a big way. There's rarely a day in the paper where they're not there. They're still, I think, perceived, particularly in schools, which is part of our challenge, as a second best pathway in life, when they're clearly not. And the fact that PwC and Accenture, Capgemini, KPMG, Deloitte are all taking kids as apprentices, actually, and bringing them through their profession has been hugely beginning to change the perception of what apprenticeship is all about. So big conversations across all sectors, all over the UK. We probably did in total about 102 last year across the UK, getting kids together with people from business and demystifying what opportunities are all about. Driving a really enthusiasm for all these industries about apprenticeships. So every one of the companies that I mentioned today are today having apprenticeship schemes. 2/3 of those organisations 2 years ago just didn't have them. They had two real entry points. Come into our business as a further education leaver, predominantly a graduate, or come in absolutely at the bottom and don't expect a career. And there's really nothing in between at all. That's just changed fantastically in the last 2 years. And the third area that Patrick touched upon is what we call work inspiration. We put in place a few years ago, with the help of all of those organisations, a structured framework about what a good experience of work would be all about. To try and, again, as you can imagine, move away from come and spend a day with us at the Xerox machine and near the coffee machine and sit in the corner and listen to what goes on, which I can say with a smile, and I can see some smiles in the room, sadly was an awful lot of what businesses were doing. So putting in place a framework about this is what a good, not work experience would look like, but a work inspiration. Last year, we had 165,000 that would pass that category of kids from predominantly 2 days to 5 days being involved in work and really beginning to think about the sort of careers and therefore what they might do to prepare themselves for the place of work. It's another massive activity, and again, I know the hospitality sector's been pushing that as well. The final piece then goes to the heart of the social problems. It's 19.6, Patrick, actually, the latest number. 16 to 24-year-olds in this country unemployed. I too have children of that age. 19.6, it's just absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. What we're all trying to do, of course, is to stop that number increasing. But our last activity, which is an initiative called Generation Talent, is actually about going into that existing cohort of 19.6 as we work very hard through these aspirations and inspirations to stop adding more into that pond in the first place. We know we have the best part of 1 million young people in this country who at the moment just don't have any future whatsoever. Generation Talent is all about organisations signing up to specifically target that group of people. That might sound incredibly easy. It is unbelievably difficult. And I chair this activity, and I arrogantly said, this isn't a problem for National Grid. I can guarantee you that when we're hiring all the people who come and work for us, we absolutely take people from this part of society. And then we ran the check that the Generation Talent Initiative has developed through our HR processes and our systems to find out that our systems, which of course predominantly like a lot of big companies are outsourced somehow, naturally screen anybody out who has not been in work in the last 9 months. So it's a bit of humble pie had to be ate on my behalf also, and we had to go back in and find out. We have to put in place a target. So today we're targeting actually 25% of all of the people that we employ will come from this 1 million young people. And the only way to do that actually has been to work directly with Job Centre Plus. That's where that data comes from. Ignore the rest of our systems and say we will go and target 25% of all of our vacancies with Job Centre Plus. And we've not asked the organisation to reduce the standards and skills that they need at all, because the concept that this 1 million young people don't have any skills is palpably nonsense, actually. And so far this year, we've actually recruited 33 of our people through Job Centre Plus, 33% of all of our new intake through Job Centre Plus. And I can absolutely guarantee you, we've not lowered our standards of what we need as employees for the future at all. So aspiration, inspiration, work experience across all of these sectors is working really well. It's beginning to unlock the imagination of the youth of tomorrow. But actually, to fix the big problem that's just burning there today, we have to take some direct action and bypass some of the systems we have in place. But as I've got 2 minutes, thank you, because you have done an awesome job. If and when I get invited to talk to other sectors, and I've had the pleasure in the retail sector and the construction sector to talk to them about the more that they can actually do in the UK, I do use the hospitality industry as an example where it's really picked up the pace enormously and it's making a huge difference. So thank you and congratulations, but please, please, more is required. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve, for joining us and giving some of your time today to talk to us. Now I'm going to hand you over in a second to Joan Forrest, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Premier Inn. He's going to be joined by Anne Pearce from Springboard and James Latham from the BHA. Just so you know, we've got our most high-profile big hospitality conversation on the 24th of September, where we have the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, Kit, who you heard this morning, and a few of the restaurant people and food service people doing a big hospitality conversation on food service and restaurants in London. And that's going to be terrific, with about 250 delegates invited. So I'm going to hand you over now to Joan Forrest, who's going to take us through the rest of the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Well, our opportunity this afternoon is to try and inspire you to get involved or do more if you already are involved in the big hospitality conversation. And we reckon the best way to do that was to do two things. Let you hear from some people who are running businesses who have made that brave step, who've got involved, and hear from them the impact that being involved has had. Why did they get involved? What's it been like? What are the problems? What are the opportunities? And then I think the most important thing, you're going to hear the life stories of 7 people who you, as an industry, have changed their life through our involvement together in the big hospitality conversation. I don't think there's anything more powerful than hearing firsthand the stories of how you, taking that chance and getting involved, whether it's one opportunity or 100 opportunities, can have on somebody's life. So that's our ambition, that's our objective. By the end of the next 40 minutes, you all should be absolutely passionate about the big hospitality conversation and wanting to know how you can get involved. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Anne Pearce and James Latham to join me. And we're going to start the conversation by discussing, Anne, with some of our business leaders, the impact of the hospitality conversation. Over to you, Anne.
Thank you very much, John. Well, my first guest today is Thomas Dubert from Accor Hotels. So, Thomas, if you could just stand up and I get by you. You've been involved very much from the beginning with the big conversation. So would you just like to share with us why you got involved and what's happened as a result of your engagement with it?
Sure, Anne. First of all, I think we all understand that we are in a people industry. And we also know there's a lot of talent out there. So we in Accor, like many other businesses here, we believe that we need to attract, we need to train, and we mainly need to retain all that young talent which is out there. And it was actually after the first summit in 2012, if I remember well, I think it was in July, where I was invited by Patrick, who said, why don't you come and have a look to this big conversation, see what you think about it. And as much as I'm inspired and passionate about my business, but that day I even was more inspired by, I think, about 10 apprentices which were in front of, I would say, the big cheeses, as you called them. Yeah? So these people were very brave, and I was inspired about their testimonies. And I'll take the occasion to say how brave I think our apprentices over there are to, again, today share with us their testimonies and their experience. So I decided immediately, talked with the executive committee of Accor, and we joined. So what did we do? I was happy to be able to organize a big conversation in Cardiff, which was the very first one we did with Accor. Together with, I think it was with you, Anne. Together with Springboard, yes, we organized in 2013 a program which we called the Hospitality Futures, It's actually a program where we attracted, at that time I think it was about 25 young unemployed people who, to be very honest, when I met them, their dream was very low. Like, there's no jobs, there's nothing out there, I have no education, I don't know what to do. So we entered them in a program, and it was actually right timing because we opened our very first training academy here in London, which offers over 250 different training courses, and where we train more or less about 5,000 people a year. So they were pretty much the first people to take part or use the academy. They were trained in our hotels. And the program was, I would say, a good success because in 2014, actually this year, we started our second hospitality program, which is funded by, we have in Accor a foundation, which we call Solidarity Accor. So I would say, I think this is proof. I can tell you out of the 50 people who took part in that program, and I think, you know, facts and figures in our business are important, more than 60% of them are actually still in our business. And that's what I said in the beginning. I think it's important that we attract, we train, and we retain that talent in our business. So for me, there were no problems. It was just a success, and it's great to see motivated young people.
So it's fair to say the big conversation had a big impact on Accor. And I know from our involvement in the Hospitality Futures programme, it's had a huge impact on the lives of those young people who were, I guess it's fair to say, young people who were facing many more disadvantages than some of the people that are in that 1 million unemployed. So it's a great job that you're doing, and thank you very much.
I would just like to add one more little statistic, which I think I already shared this morning. When the first time I met these people, I shared my experience. And there was someone out there who said to me, but you know, Thomas, which I liked, he called me Thomas, he said, it's like in sports. I mean, how many top sporters are there? Well, I said, well, it might be a bit like in sports, but when 75% of my general managers today in the UK all started where you're starting today, I think it's different than in sports. So thank you.
That's a brilliant message to finish on. So I'm going to throw over to James. I think you've got our next employer to interview.
Certainly have, yeah. Thank you, Anne. So my first question in this session is for Andrew Guy of Ed's Easy Restaurants. Now, Ed's Easy Diner, sorry. There you go. So over the next hour, we're going to be fortunate enough to hear some inspirational stories from some of the young people. My question for you, Andrew, is what actually inspired you to originally get involved with the big hospitality conversation in the first place?
Well, firstly, I've been a director of BHA for quite a long time. I'm also trustee of Springboard, so I knew of things developing there. And then in parallel with that, for the last 2.5 years, Ed's Easy Diner has been growing pretty quickly. And the focus of all of our recruitment has been around recruiting young people who are looking for a start in life. And we've done that, yes, for 2.5 years with the help of Springboard. We're very active with them. Today we have, we're a much smaller company than many talking today, but today our total workforce is about 700. And of those, about 400 are people who basically haven't worked before. And they come in, we look for no hospitality background, of course, as they haven't worked, and then we train them. We have a comprehensive training scheme. It involves both their skills in whichever role they're going to have within our diner. They have health and safety training. They have all the training that you would need to do to have a good and responsible employee. Sometimes people will, when I'm telling them this story, will say, well, you know, that's terrific. It's a very worthy thing to do. You feel very good about it. And I'll say, yes, we do. But actually, it's a hard-nosed business decision. Our annual turnover employees is less than 30%, which for the food service, the casual dining business, and particularly in our case, the casual dining business, which is edging towards fast food, that's a pretty low statistic. Many of those people who joined us 2.5 years ago, and the first time we did it in Birmingham, are still with us. And it's not just a case of hiring people to work in an hourly paid position. We say to everyone who joins us, you know, if you have a great first year and your manager endorses your application, then after a year, if you want to come into our management development program, then you can do. And we have quite a number of people already converting into that. And to give you an idea, as, both with the scheme we have running at the moment, but also a scheme we had previously, that currently in the 25 diners we have, 15 of the general managers are internal promotions. Now, seeing as we're adding diners at the rate of, well, this year 12 and next year 15, we're having to run pretty fast to keep that percentage in place, but it's something we're setting out to do.
Well, thank you, Andrew. It sounds like you've got the exact right mix in terms of your employment program that will run with your, rollout strategy for the next. And thank you as well for your continued involvement. Ed's Easy Diner is also supporting us with our young persons focus group, which we've set up now. So everything that we're doing and plan to do with our strategy for the big hospitality conversation will be sort of flushed through Generation Y and all the key young people that we want to get involved. And Andrew's very kindly helping us alongside with that. So thank you very much. Cheers. So Anne.
Thanks very much, James. Thanks, Andrew. I've found my good friend Surinder Arora from Aurora Hotels, so if you'd like to stand up. Now, you were involved, again, in the big conversation right from the early days, and you made a few pledges. So what pledges did you make, and what progress have you made with fulfilling them?
Oh dear, I think we're going to get fined now. Firstly, I must congratulate Ufi and the team and Patrick on the big conversation. I think it was an excellent idea. And we do work, and we're very fortunate to work in the hospitality industry, which is really people business. I've always said that in our properties, we always want to make sure that we treat all our staff like family and all our guests like royalty, because without the guest and without the staff, we've got no business. We did pledge, I think, between 20 to 25 apprentices, and I'm pleased to say that so far we've taken on our books in various different departments, 17 apprentices, from chefs to maintenance to reception. And we had the big conversation, the last one at Renaissance, I think on the 17th of March. And since then we've taken on, we've had at least just over 20 young people in for work experience. So that's something I genuinely believe in. I think where we as a nation, as a country, I think in my humble view, I never had the opportunity of going to university. But over the last 1-2 decades, we've been pushing all our kids and saying, you must go and do a degree, you must go to university. And everyone's got their own levels and their own limits. And not everyone, people like myself, not everyone can actually make it to the universities and do it the graduate way, but you can do it through work. And I think the apprenticeship way is another way of actually doing those degrees and experiences. And the other one thing that I'm really proud that in the company, we've always encouraged that we also encourage to have disabled staff in the company. And I always say to my teams, please don't feel sorry for someone who's disabled. Just because they're disabled, they're going to get a job. If we think they're capable of learning and being able to do a job, and then it's going to take us 2 or 3 times longer to train them, that's the best investment we can ever make. And again, that's something that I think is priceless. And we've got employees in the company, young Raj and Stuart at Heathrow at the Aurora, who've been with us for 14 years and 11 years. And Raj, who's in a wheelchair, and we made a special switchboard area for him because of his wheelchair access. When he got his first paycheck, he was there and tears in his eyes. And Becky, one of my managers, said, Raj, what's the matter? And he said, Becky, I'm 32 years old and this is my first pay slip. And I can't tell you how satisfying that was. And I think we can all help in the industry. We are in a fabulous industry. I mean, I came into hospitality by sheer accident, because in my younger days, I did my hospitality training at the Renaissance Penta Hotel as a wine waiter. But I think we can all work hard and actually offer those young people the opportunity to join our wonderful business, and hopefully they can also progress. I mean, in the room, I've got Anna Dowling, my star, we call her the Queen, my general manager from the Sofitel, and she started her career as a trainee, and of course she's now leading a business, turning over close to 50 million a year. So, it's an opportunity for all of us, for our youngsters, and I think we can help them all, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be. If we all work together, get that number down below 15 and 12% of young people without jobs.
Thanks, Surinder. I think you make some really good points there. Now, I also know that you're making good progress with your new hotel at the O2, so we'll be expecting some new pledges when you open that next year.
For me, I will just take 30 seconds. Because I believe in the hospitality, the apprenticeship, I insisted with Balfour Beatty, who are building the hotel for us at the O2, guys, we must have some young apprentices during construction period. So they've committed to taking on 25 apprentices through the Prince's Trust for the job. So we definitely will be doing that for the hotel.
That's amazing. It's really getting through the DNA of your company. So James, back over to you.
Thank you, Anne. So Patrick mentioned briefly earlier that we're very fortunate to have Alistair Storey sit on our national steering group. So my next question is for you, Alistair. Since you've been involved in the big hospitality conversation, what has surprised you the most?
Well, first of all, I'd like to echo everybody else's sentiments. I think that the initiative is absolutely outstanding. I was very inspired by what you said as well, Steve. I think it's a horror that 20% of our young people can't find a job. And they really can't find, I know lots of them, I've got 5 children. Most of them have got a job, not all of them. And, you know, genuinely, people at all levels in society, young people are looking for something that will give them pride in themselves, that will give them hope, that will give them a sense of ambition so that they can follow a dream. So this is just absolutely marvelous, and I was very proud to get involved in it. Our business has been founded on really training and development. So we've had for many years Chefs Academy, Baristas Academies, Leadership Academies. And so we bring in a lot of young people all the time. So it's a continuous program. And at any given moment, we've probably got 200 or 300 people at, if you will, an apprenticeship level across a range of jobs in our business. And what we're really interested in is giving them a long-term future and a route through to wherever is the level that they feel most comfortable. But I suppose what surprised me most going to the first big hospitality conversation was, and this is such a marvelous industry, and it's so easy to get into. It sort of frustrates me that there's not more young people that we can, I mean, it's brilliant the number that we've got involved, and we're going to hear some great stories. But God, I'd love to see more people thinking, I want to get in, and actually believing that there's a route in. And it's been really interesting listening to some of the speakers about totally, well, you could say unrelated subjects, but like using Twitter or using phones to get at people. We along with many others in this room, get involved through Springboard, through the Royal Academy of Culinary Arts, through Chefs Adopt a School, through all sorts of programs to try to encourage people to think about this as a great industry. And it's a real job of work. And I suppose today I've been thinking, we must be able to go up to another level. We must find a route to get at young people more, to make them really think these jobs, the jobs are here. This industry is creating jobs. I mean, even in our own business, we're creating something like 1,000 jobs a year. We've got 14,000 people now. We only started in 2000. So we are desperately needing young talent. And I love having young people in the business because they bring such energy, such creativity. They bring a dimension that perhaps us older lot don't have. So they are the future. There is no question about it. It's how can we, you know, and I suppose the challenge for this room and what I would say is, look, come on. How can we contact, how can we get people to really realize what a brilliant industry it is? You know, we've said time and again during today about the range of jobs that are available. But, you know, most of us, I started as a waiter, then I became a chef, then I went and did a hotel management degree. But I worked my way through university because there was no grants and my parents sure as hell couldn't afford it. And you know, most of us really, it's just a route in. Once you get going, it's incredible how quickly you can get going. So I think the big thing I would say is just try to create more routes into encouraging people and getting the message out.
Thank you, Alistair. I think just listening to you there, you can see the passion and the enthusiasm is exactly what we're looking for, and that type of support on the National Steering Group is really valuable. Anne?
Well, I'd like now to introduce Angela Williams from an integrated facilities management company, better known as Sodexo.
Thank you.
Now, my question, yeah. So when you got involved in the big conversation, what do you think were the biggest challenges you had to face as a business?
Thank you. So Sodexo is the 18th biggest employer in the world, and we made the decision with the big hospitality conversation to recruit 300 apprentices. And we've actually blown that out of the water, and we have recruited over the last year 400 apprentices onto our programme across a whole range of environments. So whether it's in our prisons, whether it's on our defence sites, in our hospitals, in our education sites, right across our business sectors, and also in our prestige, so Ascot and the Open Gulf. So we've taken apprentices across a whole range of skills. We've also offered 31 different vocational qualifications, and with that, it brings the challenge. So whether it's retail or hospitality or grounds maintenance, the whole range of those 31 different vocational qualifications have been a real challenge. I think our biggest challenge, however, has been actually finding apprentices who want to join the business. So everyone wants to join Sodexo, which is fantastic, but actually how we source them, where we find them from, and how we make sure that they get onto our programs. And unfortunately, one of the providers who we worked with is no longer with us, which hasn't helped. So, but luckily with the work of Springboard, and we've trained 25 ambassadors within our business to actually be able to run our apprenticeship programs. And you'll hear from Lewis a bit later, one of our apprentices, who has really grown through the business. And getting engagement from managers is not a problem. Dale is with us today. He's actually travelled down from Plymouth to make sure that our apprentice is here, is able to speak, and is able to grow and develop. And that's the kind of commitment that we have. Our biggest problem is making sure we have the right talent coming through in the right way, and actually we can integrate the learning externally and internally to make sure that we're being effective. We've also really focused on work experience in terms of along the Inspire standard, and that has really, really helped us to make sure that we're delivering a quality service. But actually balancing all of that, integrating it all, and making sure that we can grow and develop, and we hope to appoint as many of those 400 apprentices into full-time jobs as we possibly can and keep on growing.
Thanks, Angela. It sounds like you had some integrated solutions to all of those challenges already. So thank you. Then finally, back over to James.
Thank you, Anne. So my third and final question is for Anthony Pender, who runs the Yummy Pub Company. Anthony, you were involved very early on with pub perceptions in terms of making pledges for the big hospitality conversation. We're pretty short on time now, I'm afraid, though, so you've got 2 minutes, so make it quick if you can. But what difference has it made to your business since you first pledged?
Well, okay, we started out about 18 months ago looking at work placements, and we had a good success within our own company. We ran with a social youth hostel next door with struggling kids in central London. We rolled that out for the perception scheme to the whole pub trade. Sometimes we're kind of on the peripherals of the hospitality kind of sector, but we're massive. We're 52,000 outlets at the end of the day within the pub sector. So we're trying to bring ourselves into that more. And talking about success, pubs are full of opportunity. They're one area where you can go from working as a pot wash right the way through to owning your own business in a matter of years. It's something that I've done. I now own 5 sites, and I've got gone from 3 staff to 106 in just under 5 years. And as of next week, we'll have another 30 staff on top of that where we're opening a new site. The best way to portray that, I thought, was to let you talk to a couple of my guys very briefly. One thing I want to point out is that we don't give people opportunities, they earn them, and I think that's really important. We don't want to seem like this angelic chalice that kind of comes along and says, well, here, we're going to give you this fantastic thing. Actually, these guys earn it, and they work hard every day for their opportunities. So here they are. First up, I've got Sarah, who is general manager of our flagship site just by Euston Station. She took over the role about 3 months ago, so just give it a quick second there then, Sarah.
I joined Yummy Pubs about 18 months ago now and started as just normal bar staff. Anthony, Jason and Tim, who are the directors, put a lot of trust into me pretty quickly through working hard and training the rest of the guys up, which is something that I'm really keen on continuing to do with people such as Nock, who's quite a new supervisor working at the site.
Hi, my name is Nock. I first met Anthony 2 weeks in a course for hospitality. He gave me a position in Summertown's Coffee House. I did a 6-month stint there and I got promoted, and right now I'm a supervisor and I want a trip to Spain.
Thank you, Anthony. Good luck with the new opening, and well done, Sarah, for your promotion, and good luck, Nock, for all the best.
Okay, and last but not least for our little employer interviews, I've got Sandra Nunes from AB Hotels. And you're from a small business, so we just want to say, does it work for small businesses, and how have you embraced it within AB Hotels?
Well, we all know that we have a shortage of skills within the industry, and for a small business, that challenge becomes even bigger. I've attended an event where was the big hospitality conversation. I got really the inspiration. Contacted our local college, delivered a presentation, giving to them, to the students, to everyone that wanted to attend, a hint about hospitality industry and our company. And I am very proud to say that by the end of the day tomorrow, we're going to employ 12 apprentices. So that's definitely, at the same time, we have contacted the Springboard to be accredited on Inspire Work Experience program. So I strongly believe that the future, it is to build the talent within, no other option. Thank you.
That's brilliant, Sandra. Thank you very much. I'm just going to whiz over to Patrick. We've heard a lot from employers about the passion and the energy that they've put behind the big conversation. So just a quick word on where we're going in the future.
Well, I think what we need to do, the biggest thing at the BHA we need to do is actually give everybody, all the members, access to how they do it. So how can you do apprenticeship, whether you do it in-house, whether you do it through a supplier. We need to give you the information around that. How do you do work experience? How can you contact schools, working with Springboard and other people? And also, how can you go about working with Job Centre Plus or Prince's Trust across the UK? And one of the things that James is working on with UFI is to have that on a network that people can access, they can download it, and we can give you that support at a local level to really help the small hotels and restaurants. It's fine for the big places because they've got HR directors and things, but I think one of the big needs is to get it out now into the smaller SMEs, and that's what will make the real difference. It's 247,000 catering establishments in the UK. Just imagine if every single one of those did one apprentice, it would make a huge difference. Thank you.
Great. So hopefully from that you've heard some inspirational stories about employers who've got involved. And now it's time to hear the stories from our young people. So we're just going to very quickly introduce them, and then they're going to give you about 2 minutes each on what difference the hospitality conversation has made to them. So first of all, we've got Leon. Leon, could you just introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name's Leon White. I'm currently working for Whitbread in the HR department for the WISE programme, which is Whitbread Investing in Skills and Education.
Thank you, Leon.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Annabelle McLean. I'm the Operations Manager in Premier Inn in Brentwood.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Watson. Basically, I'm currently unemployed, but currently out seeking work at the minute.
Hi, I'm Caroline O'Brien, and I'm the Reception Team Leader at Novotel Liverpool.
Hello, my name is Giovanni. I work at the Cinema View, but I'm looking for a job in the hotel industry.
Hi, my name's Jack Piercy. I currently work in this hotel in the food and beverage service.
Hi, I'm Lewis and I'm from Plymouth. Short and sweet. Short and sweet.
And that's short and sweet because we're going to be interviewing you first, isn't it, Lewis? Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you got involved or before you benefited from the big conversation?
I was working in a garage. I used to go day to day in work, hating it, never liked it. And
after I decided just to leave and take a risk, and I started on building sites and that, and eventually a place at Sodexo come up, and ever since I've been in Sodexo, I've just benefited. With the help from Dale, who's over there, he's guided me through everything I've done. He's got me into competitions, and I've got a few medals from it, and just benefited ever since.
So tell us a little bit about the medals that you've got, because they're quite prestigious, aren't they?
One of them is, I think, silver award at Hotel Olympia, which I got, which was a team event, and the team were amazing that I'm with, and is working with one of them next year in Eton College, hopefully. But I got a Tabasco Sauce Street Food Challenge certificate and finalist, and butchery courses and sugarcraft courses I'm doing, but it's all because of Dale and Sodexo. So.
And I like to show the audience this medal here, because this is a Salon Culinaire medal from Hotel Olympia. So let's give him a big round of applause. And you were telling me earlier that at school you really struggled.
Yeah, I was dyslexic, and it did hold me back quite a bit, and I sort of shied away from trying to do a hard job because I thought it was going to hold me back even more, and eventually came out of my shell and got somewhere.
That's brilliant, and I'm sure you're going to go on to a really successful career at one of their prestigious sites at Eton College. So well done, Lewis. I think you've done brilliantly, and keep it up. Lewis, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Lewis. So, Leon, why don't you give us a bit of an insight into the difference that the work of the Big Hospitality Conversation has had for you?
Okay. I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet because I know we're short on time. I'm just trying to tell you a little bit about my journey and sort of where I was and where I am now, really. I sort of, at the age of 14, my dad sort of passed away, which was sort of the turning point in my life. I became very isolated, really, from the world and very disengaged and didn't really do anything with my life. I spent every day at home not really doing anything with myself, so staring at four walls, got involved in the wrong crowd, as you could put it. I got to the age of 21 and I actually ended up in prison. I got into a fight at a football match through one punch, which ended me up in prison. I spent 4 months in prison, and I think that was the sort of turning point for me, because it was a sort of shock to the system that where I was. I thought, you know, I've always sort of wanted to do something in my life. I just never thought I'd end up in jail. So I came out of prison and I sort of started looking for jobs. I was applying for jobs everywhere and nobody really wanted to give me an opportunity, to the point I sort of sat at home every day feeling like a failure, and I was actually diagnosed with anxiety and depression. I couldn't speak to anybody, I couldn't be around anybody, and I kept having panic attacks everywhere I went. It all changed for me when I walked into the job centre one day and I came across a Prince's Trust worker. He asked me to enrol on a course for Prince's Trust, which is Get Into Hospitality with Premier Inn. Cut a long story short, I'd done the course, I really got my head down on the course, and at the end of the course I was actually offered 2 jobs within Premier Inn. So I took the job. I've now been working for Premier Inn for 18 months. I was also asked to become a Young Ambassador for the Prince's Trust. I recently won Prince's Trust Young Ambassador of the Year last year, and I've been working for Premier Inn for 18 months, and I've recently just been promoted to HR, where I now work for Whitbread in the WISE program, which is Whitbread Investing in Skills and Education. So it's a real privilege to me to be able to, you know, come to these sort of events and share my story with you guys, and to also be able to give back and to sort of now find other young people that were in the situation I was in, because, you know, it's people like yourselves that really did change my life. So I like to always take this opportunity as well to say thank you, because before I attended the big conversation, I didn't realise that there are people out there that want to give people like me an opportunity. So I do always like to take this opportunity to say thank you, because you really have changed my life. So thank you.
Thank you, Leon.
That's a really inspirational story. I now want to introduce you to Jack. And Jack, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background? What happened when you were at school?
Yeah, I found school rather difficult. I mean, I have a mild learning difficulty as well. So I kind of find it hard picking up new skills and kind of putting them to use as well. So that it really kind of made me unsure on like what direction I wanted to go in as well.
And did that affect your confidence and your self-belief when you were at school?
Yeah, it really did hold me back for quite a long time as well, because I mean, I was unemployed for 18 months, And yeah, it's really sort of lost my direction of where I wanted to go.
And then something happened that changed your life, really, didn't it? And we've already heard from Thomas Dubert about the Hospitality Futures programme that Accor Foundation have helped to support. And you were one of the lucky candidates to get on the programme last year.
Yeah, I was on the first Hospitality Futures programme in 2012. And yeah, it just really changed my life. From the first interview, I hit it off with the interviewers. And I loved everything about it. The confidence building workshops, the away trips, especially earning various qualifications that have helped me in my job today. And everything from just top to bottom was a really big help.
So you did a 5-week programme and then you did a period of work experience. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I worked in Ibis Styles, Southwark for 2 weeks, and then I was offered another week because of the effort that I put in, and I worked as a restaurant server and a receptionist, which I found really helps because it made me more adaptable to situations.
That's brilliant. And we know now from your introduction that you're working at this very hotel. So who's been your mentor at this hotel?
Oh, that's a little bit of an unfair question. I'd have to say I love them all.
That's really brilliant, Jack. And again, I wish you every success. I think you're going to go from strength to strength with the Accor Group. Well done.
Fantastic story, Jack. It's fantastic to hear that you've settled in and having such a great time here. So, Annabelle, why don't you share with us a little of your story and your journey as an apprentice with Premier Inn?
Okay, so before I joined Premier Inn, I was actually unemployed. It'd been over 6 months, and to be absolutely honest with you, I had no idea what I wanted to do with myself. And the opportunity came up to apply for an interview day for the new opening of a Premier Inn in London, Leicester Square. So I turned up for that, and to be honest with you, my mindset at the time was it's better to be working in a job than not. Like, I'd never considered hospitality as a career. I turned up and I was offered the job, and shortly after I'd started working there, I was given the opportunity to enrol on the apprenticeship scheme. It was described to me as it's something you do whilst you're working. It doesn't require, you're given time within your job role to complete this apprenticeship course. And if it turned out that hospitality wasn't going to be for me, it's something, an accredited qualification that I could take away with me whatever I went on to do. So I started on the course, and it was great. Like, there were days out of the business focused solely on that, and I was interacting with people also doing the apprenticeship scheme across Premier Inn. And you could see the different ways that people have progressed through the company, and it gave me, it's going to sound really cheesy, but it's like I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. It changed my mentality from okay, so this is just a job that I'm doing, to this is a career, and I can see that there's a future here, essentially. And so shortly after that, I was then promoted into a team leader role at Premier Inn London County Hall. My apprenticeship scheme came with me because I was given business projects to do, and that came with me. And in January this year, I was then promoted to operations manager at Premier Inn Brentwood. So I've now been running my own hotel for just over 3 months. And for me, having come from no idea what I wanted to do, no experience in hospitality, to be managing my own hotel in less than in 2 years, and not just that, but having a career is something that I'm really thankful for.
Brilliant, great story. Well done, Annabelle. Anne.
I've heard Annabelle's story about 2 or 3 times now through the big conversation. It never fails to inspire. But we now turn to Giovanni. So Giovanni, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and what you've experienced so far?
I started when I was at college. Well, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So when I left college, I started looking for jobs. So I applied for Job Centre. And then the Job Centre then showed me to Springboard, where I was on a hospitality future course for 8 weeks, where we had to visit different hotels, learn different things about the hotel industry for 5 weeks. And the 2 weeks we had to do a work experience, where I did my work experience at Westminster Bridge Park Plaza, where they wanted to offer me a job, but because I was on tag, I didn't get that job. But from there, I started meeting different people like Mark Lewis, who's helping me get into different, get into job in the hotel industry.
So you met Mark Lewis when he interviewed you on stage at one of the big conversations, didn't you? And when he got back, you sent him an email.
I sent him an email when I got home, because at the Hotel Olympia, I was really nervous on the stage, where he didn't tell me, you know, you can't be nervous. At least give it a go, and then you'll pick it up from there.
And so you've then had some more bits of work experience, but not really got a job yet. You were taken on at Lancaster London for some casual work. And where are you working now?
I'm working at the View Cinema at Islington, where it's not really nice down there, but I mean, you have to start somewhere, you know.
And you were telling me that while that's a job, where your heart is really in the hospitality industry, and you're looking for a job in a hotel. And we've got a little surprise next week, haven't we?
Yeah, I have an interview at Premier Inn, where hopefully I'll get the job.
I think, yeah. One big interview, this, I think, Giovanni. That's fantastic. Thank you. I've got Chris with me, and Chris is currently, as you heard, looking for a job. So if there's anybody out there wants to get involved directly this afternoon, then it'd be great if Chris could leave with some more opportunities. So let's hear a bit from Chris about your journey. So you found school and everything not a great place to be.
Yeah, no, for me, school, it wasn't really a great place. I grew up throughout the years of like being bullied, just because of the way I looked and everything, just because I was on my own most of the time. But then it comes to a stage I just stopped going to school completely, and only ended up started going like a few years later, just due to the bullying. And after slowly I managed to get settled in, okay, I didn't get many qualifications out of it, so I didn't really learn too much. I got a couple, but I had to work harder for them. So basically I just managed to get myself through at school, and managed to settle myself down quite a bit after school.
So you've been working really hard, and your focus has been on building work experience. So you came along to the Big Hospitality Conversation?
Yeah, I came along to the Big Hospitality Conversation. I was there in March this year. I was there a couple of years ago as well, which the first time I got offered a job opportunity by one of the directors of Jury's Inn, which all went well. I worked there for I think about 3.5 to 4 months, because then I had some family problems and it didn't actually quite work out at the end of it.
So you've since done further work experience, and you've done some work experience with us at Premier Inn. So you're now looking for that first real full-time opportunity. So thank you very much, Chris, for telling your story. And if anybody's able to help Chris, then I'm sure you'll be able to catch up with them at the end. So Anne, our final story. Everybody, Chris.
So last but not least, our final big conversation of the afternoon is with Caroline. And Caroline's all the way down from Liverpool. And you attended the big conversation in Liverpool last year.
Yep, so I was unemployed at the time, and the job centre suggested I go attend the big conversation because I'd worked for a cruise line. So I kind of worked in the hospitality industry, but I didn't really think it was an industry I wanted to work in. So I went along there and was amazed straight away by what it was and how big it was. I had no idea what it was, really.
And then you had a bit of a chance meeting at the big conversation with who you were sitting next to.
Yes, so I got really lucky to sit next to the incredible general manager, Matthew Brett of Novotel Liverpool. During our session, we had a chat about my experience and my past, and at the end, he gave me his business card. He asked me to get in touch, and we'd hopefully be able to have something, which I did. Got straight in touch with him, went in for a chat. He offered me a work experience, which went successful. At the time, he was only able to offer me a 0-hour contract because there was no jobs at the hotel. I took because it was a job at the end of the day. After a few weeks there, that became a full-time position on reception. And then just a little while after that, I became the reception team leader.
Brilliant. Well done. Well done. And your rapid rise up the ladder hasn't stopped there because you've had other successes, haven't you?
Yeah, so in October of last year, I was actually awarded the Employee of the Quarter. As the team leader, I now run a reception team of 12, and I also work as a guest service manager at the hotel.
Round of applause for that. That's brilliant. So if you were going to make a plea to the employees in the audience about getting further involved in the big conversation or involved for the first time if they haven't got involved already, what would you say?
I'd say just do it because it's incredible for young people. I mean, myself and I know so many other young people who don't know what's in there in the hospitality industry, and it's things like the big conversation where they understand and they get to meet people, and it's those connections and those networks that you make at things like that, which, I mean, it started my career, and as you can see, all of ours as well. So it's such a great opportunity.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard some, I think, amazing stories from these young people here today, and it just shows the impact that this initiative has had, both on employers getting involved in more work experience apprenticeship, employing local young people, but really making a difference to the young people's lives that have been involved in it. And there's more to come because we've got many more big conversations this year. So thank you. If you're not involved already, get involved. If you are involved already, make one more pledge. Over to you, John.
Thanks, Anne. Can we have a big round of applause for all of the young people who've taken part again? I think it takes enormous courage and pride to get up here and tell their stories. Hopefully they've inspired you to get involved. The next big conversation is on the 24th of September at City Hall in London. And if you'd like any more information, please get in touch with James Latham at the BHA. Thank you very much.
What an inspiration. And thank you, John, James, and Anne for moderating that session. And congratulations to all those companies who are providing pledges, and congratulations to the apprentices.